And so welcome everyone to Navigating Mid-Career Strategies for Success and Support virtual series. This is session number 1, and we have a total of 3 sessions planned. We invite people to come to all 3 as a series or one off. The sessions are listed by topic here. So you've come and joined us for session number 1, Stepping Up to More Leadership Challenges and Supports. Session number 2 is How Do I? Exploring and Preparing for New Opportunities. Session number 3 is Juggling Work and Life in Mid-Career, Thriving Through the Support Sandwich. Just as a reminder, we want to thank ACAP and the communications team, and especially Jill Bradford and Quentin Bernhardt, who have supported us in this program. And this is just a lovely slide that ACAP staff have put together that always helps me remember why I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist. So again, you're joining us today, this evening, for Navigating Mid-Career Strategies for Success and Support virtual series. We are having 3 main facilitators to focus on this topic, and we really want to engage all of you together for some networking, discussion, support, and community. We'll introduce ourselves in just a bit, but as we bring people into this series and presentation, I want to let you know that we want to spend our hour today as about 10 minutes for our welcome and overview. Just for a few housekeeping details, because we'd like this to be interactive and really engage with everyone here. I'd like to encourage you to have your cameras on if you are in a safe space to do that. Of course, if you're commuting or doing other things and joining us to listen in, we understand. But especially as we go into potentially breakout groups, we encourage you to go to your camera on. We want to encourage, especially in the groups, to use the step up, step back, because we would like to hear from everyone. So we really want to encourage you to step up and have your voice be heard and to share your thoughts, feedback, and comment. And if you've already done so, to take a step back so that everyone has an opportunity to share and discuss. And once everyone has had a turn, to go back and step up. We want to remind everyone that in this virtual session and forum today, that everything that we discuss is confidential. This is recorded, so it will be available to ACAP members, but certainly what we discuss here, and particularly in the breakout rooms, which will not be recorded, are particularly confidential. As we move forward, we will have 3 quick icebreakers to get to know one another, because it's really important that we connect on a human level as well as a professional level. After that, we will go into a more detailed facilitator presenter introduction, and we'll have a brief review of the session program content for about 15 minutes. That session content will then lead us to a small group discussion where we will be divided into breakout rooms. And so hopefully we will have that time to respond and react to the session comment, have that discussion, networking, and feedback. And before we come together in that session feedback, we also want to make sure, in addition to the discussion prompts, that we focus on what we'd like to hear and organize from within ACAP. And then we'll come together after this discussion and hopefully have about 6 minutes of closing together, some reflections, reporting out if there's time to do so, and to wrap up this session and launch us into the next session. We want to let you know that our slides from today will be available on the ACAP website afterwards, right where you logged in to the ACAP virtual forum. These slides will be posted there like other virtual fora. And I understand. Thank you for the comments of individuals who cannot safely be on camera. And we thank you for attending to your safety. So just to socialize everyone today to this series, again, you are attending to the MECAP series, Stepping Up to More Leadership Challenges and Supports. This is the first of 3 virtual meetings that are free and open to all ACAP members. And today's focus is going to be on common challenges and opportunities of increasing leadership duties while you're in mid or experienced career. As always, your feedback will be solicited on specifically how ACAP, we as an organization, can help our members in this career development phase. Our second series is scheduled for after the annual meeting on Tuesday, October 29th, and our main facilitators for that session will be Drs. Gabriel, Schott, and Simon. And that one will be focused on how do I, exploring and preparing for new opportunities. And that focus will be on seeking and leveraging new opportunities and experiences, which also include saying no. Our third virtual series is still to be scheduled, but the topic has already been determined, and that is about juggling work and life in mid-career, thriving through the support sandwich. And that support sandwich references the generational support or sandwich of sometimes raising your own families and also having to take care of your family members and the elders in that middle sandwich. Our facilitators for that program will be Drs. Hua, Kim, Palio, and Sharma, and we look forward to all three presentations if you're able to join us. This third series is going to focus on professional and personal wellness, addressing empathy, fatigue, managing burnout, and work-life balance. So now's a good time for the facilitators for this program to introduce themselves, and let me turn it over to Dr. Carson first.
Thank you, Vivien. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see everybody join tonight. No matter where you are, this is a really wonderful turnout, and we're really happy to embark on this discussion of leadership together. I'm Nick Carson, and I work at the Cambridge Health Alliance in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I've been the division chief for child and adolescent psychiatry for about 2 years. And I've been at CHA since 2004 when I was a fellow there. I do research as part of my role. We have a health equity research lab where I conduct and lead research on youth suicide prevention among disadvantaged families. I trained at the University of Pennsylvania for my residency, and I did my medical school at McGill in Montreal. And it's really wonderful to be here with you today.
Thank you, Nick. I'm Vivien Chan. In my professional hat, I'm a chief of psychiatry and mental health services at UC Irvine Student Health Center, and I also teach the fellows and categorical residents as a volunteer faculty member. For right now, I also happen to be one of your ACAP counselors at large. And I trained in Ohio, and for the rest of my professional career, have actually stayed in one place so far in Orange County in Irvine, California. And let me hand it over to Mary.
Thank you, Vivien. Good evening, everyone. So to bring it up from the end, I'm Mary Gabriel. I am here in Cleveland at Case Western Reserve in Rainbow Babies and Children's. I wear multiple hats, not all of which are in child and adolescent psychiatry. So one of my roles is being director of behavioral health within our POP Health and ACO here at university hospitals, sort of overseeing the entire system. In addition to that, more locally, I am the associate director of outpatient psychiatry and the training director for the post-pediatric portal program, which is a fellowship for pediatricians who'd like to retrain in child psychiatry. And then I'm also the director of the mental health clinical excellence team at Rainbow Babies. So I went to school at Baylor down in Houston, and I did my PEDS residency in Cincinnati, practiced for almost 10 years, and then returned to training to the post-pediatric portal fellowship up here at Case. Now I'll turn it back to you, Viv. Oh, I guess this one's me. So a few definitions, just so that we are all sort of level setting and speaking the same language. When you look at the literature, mid-career is typically defined as 7 to 8 years after fellowship graduation, and ACAP has taken on that definition as well. Looking at experienced career, that's defined as greater than 20 years, which initially, at least to me, seemed like really advanced. Like, isn't that like emeritus level type stage in your career? However, When you look at ACAP's definition of a life fellow, it's actually, I was really surprised. It's your age after 65 plus the total number of years you've been a member at ACAP, and those have to equal or be greater than 103. So you've got to really be in it for the long haul if you're going to be a distinguished life fellow. So when you think about early career as being 7 years or less, and then you think about this distinguished life fellow, there is an enormous gap and a real need for support and direction and sort of fellowship for this mid-career stage. So, and that's why Vivien's brainchild is bringing this to you.
This is a group effort, but thank you, Mary, for that acknowledgement. So MECAP at ACAP, we've been able to give this cohort a name standing for Mid and Experienced Career Psychiatrists, Child and Adolescent Psychiatrists. And where we are now is at the grassroots level. We know that mid-career, again, is defined as greater or equal to 8 years of practice, and experienced career in the literature defined as greater than 20 years of practice. Particularly mid-career is a period of physician development, which are the highest for us to be productive, but they also coincide with the highest rate of emotional exhaustion and burnout, with this cohort being most likely to leave medicine for reasons other than retirement. And ACAP has invested and has strong mentorship and peer support pathways for medical students. Early career, that's I think after fellowship years 0 through 7, and distinguished life fellows, as you saw. But it doesn't have a similar structure for mid and experienced career child and adolescent psychiatrists. And so through the organization, there have been many programs to facilitate this in indirect ways. There have been 2 recent explicit programs, and this virtual series is another commitment by ACAP intended to address this gap organizationally, to learn what we need as members, and to provide possible future organizational supports to membership. We're grateful that Executive Council leadership and staff at ACAP are supportive of this. Some of the attendees today are in the room. I want to thank Dr. Amy Kim and certainly Dr. Tammy Benton for her support, and the countless other child and adolescent psychiatrists who have expressed interest in this. So just this is a busy slide that I'm going to hand over to Nick, and we're just going to highlight a couple of pieces on it. So, yeah.
Thank you. So we are child psychiatrists, so we think in terms of developmental arcs. And this is a slide that has been used in a few of the presentations that this group you'll meet today has given at ACAP over the past few years, describing the different professional stages that we go through in our careers. And of course, here we're focusing on that middle to experienced phase of around 8 to 21 and beyond. And we won't go through all of the different points in this slide, but we will share the slide, so you'll be able to read this at your leisure later. But if you're in the middle or experienced phase of your career, you've gone through this process of consolidating your professional identity and becoming familiar with an expertise that hopefully gives you confidence in the work that you're doing, and perhaps have moved into some leadership roles in service or teaching or research or operations of clinical services. And now you're at the point where you're working on that hard-won awareness of what you know and what you don't know, what your skills are and your abilities, and what you feel you'd still like to develop, getting a sense of what you need to work on those gaps that you've identified. And at the same time, as life passes, you may find yourself in your personal life with increasing demands of family, raising a family, supporting others in your family network, and of course the demands that come with increasing responsibilities at work bring more professional demands, and so this is a challenging phase of life, and we're here to name that and discuss what our needs are and how our organization can support us in this.
Thank you, Nick. So before we get to more content, it's time for our icebreakers. So we're going to ask Quentin for your help. Again, if you are in a place where commuting and driving is unsafe, we understand if you won't participate. But certainly if you are with us in a place where you can participate in the first icebreaker, we will have a Zoom poll set up. And first, to help us identify who's here today, please respond to what stage of career you might be in. So it looks like we have completion. It looks like 36, sorry. Oh, it's uh, 63% of us in the room are identifying as mid-career. 9% of us in the room together, in this virtual room together, are identifying as early career, and 29% of us are identifying as experienced career. So thank you for that. Quinn, do I need to end? Okay, there you
go. Okay, I'll take this next one. I'm going to have a little fun with you with this question. So you'll be invited to type in an answer for this question, which is, if you weren't a child and adolescent psychiatrist, share with us what other career did you consider? If you had a fantasy alternative career, what would that have been? And once everybody's had a chance to share some ideas, then we'll pivot to a web page where we have everything listed. Okay, so thank you for being open to share some answers here. This is lovely. So baker, musician, chef, lawyer, YouTuber, film critic, chef. There's several answers to do with food, teaching, accountant, detective, F1 engineer. Someone's fantasizing about retirement, fair enough. Anthropologist. High D, pediatrician, teacher, ambassador, chef, musician. So lots of careers in the arts, in creative endeavors. That's great. Thank you so much.
And I think we have one last icebreaker for everyone. Mary, you're going to help us with this. You're muted.
Oh, we've got quite a few respondents on this. I love this question because everybody has an opinion on it, and it ranges the spectrum of absolutely not, it's anathema to anything pizza related, and oh my God, it's culinary genius. And I like it looks like the distribution sort of follows the trend that I've seen previously. So excellent. It looks like the concentration of answers are on either end of the spectrum, which is also reflective of some pretty strong opinions about pineapple on pizza. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, everyone. So I want to confirm that you're still seeing my slides. Yes,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges in mid-career and experienced career is certainly we trust that you're going to develop your clinical skills in the way that we all professionally develop. But oftentimes in mid-career, early, late experienced career, we're asked to do things, run a clinic, run a QI project, lead a team, become a medical director, write a grant. And we probably are very familiar with some of these skills in our clinical lives, but it takes some intentionality, thought, sometimes guidance, mentorship, coaching, self directed learning to translate those skills into leadership and growth areas. We know that we have these skills again as clinicians, and this slide really presents common skills in leadership as they are presented in the business world. So, communication skills, people management skills, change management skills, organizational, institutional politics and policies, learning finance, strategy, and vision. So, breaking those down further, communication skills. In the clinical world, we know that we have to tailor our message, especially when we're working with patients and families, to our physician colleagues. And we know that we have to repeat things, but to be brief. For me personally, one of the communication skills I had to really work on intentionally was in my earlier days is being detail oriented. I wanted my emails to be reference points and for people to have policies and procedures and workflows in those. And I have learned over time that my emails have to be shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and to condense, 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 condense. And obviously, the time it takes to sit and write that in an effortful, intentional way does take time and skills and practice. And I'm wondering, Nick and Mary, have you come up with any communication skills that you've had to explicitly work on in your leadership roles?
One of the skills that I have tried to work on is how to lead a meeting during Zoom when you might be facing a lot of cameras that are turned off and a lot of silence to your invitations to get participation. And then secondly, leading larger meetings with staff during periods of more intense uncertainty or when there's safety issues on inpatient that need to be addressed. When people are stressed, then being the voice of what change needs to happen has been something definitely to work on.
Yeah, I think really sort of sometimes taking a step back from my own agenda and really listening to people in the meeting and just being present and trying to absorb their perspectives, understanding where they're at. Because I think sometimes that brings a lot more understanding or at least perspective, which then helps to clarify for me sort of direction, vision, things like that. So really kind of taking a step back and letting other people sort of voice and allowing that to inform what I'm thinking about.
And that leads into things like people management skills and change management skills. So, people management is everything from the starting process of hiring. It starts before that to recruiting, writing a job description if you have to do that, leading interview teams. Certainly, if you've been part of interview processes, how I've recruited staff has certainly changed a lot over time from when I was a younger manager to a more senior manager. It includes giving that tough feedback if you have to deliver performance evaluations. And again, we're used to giving um, feedback in a clinical setting, but we know as clinicians that it takes rapport with someone before they're going to hear what you have to say. It takes a bit of an alliance to do that. Um, we know from parent management training that if the relationship has soured, we have to work intentionally hard at building up positives before we deliver negatives. And so, these are explicit intentional leadership skills that need to be built up. From a change management perspective, we've measured families in different settings, economic statuses, and identified the scope of change that we can do in those settings. But in a system, sometimes we expect the system to transform and make major change when we know from our clinical working experience that even getting individuals within a family system to change takes a really long time. And a large organizational system is a family amplified. I want to spend a little bit more time highlighting some of these challenges before we go into some possible supports. And then we're going to send everyone to breakout rooms to react to some of this content, reflect, and see if this brings up anything that you're looking for, have experienced, or would like to see from ACAP. Any comments on organizational politics? Just like to navigate that. The treachery of that, learning finances, billing, and coding, and strategy and vision.
I will take us through this slide quickly so that we can pivot to our smaller groups. I just wanted to add this concept of thinking about what your values are and reflecting on what inspires you to lead. In leadership, we're accepting responsibility for helping others to take action in the face of uncertainty. And having a sense of what drives you in this work can be really helpful. So I linked to an exercise called Mountains and Valleys, which takes you through your life journey to think about your highs and lows and what values were revealed in those moments. And as Vivien was saying, this concept of adaptive change, I think, is really relevant, where the problems and the solutions are hard to identify. Conflict is just inherently part of the process. The obstacles are a little more diffuse. It involves shifting the culture of your service. There's loyalties that are hard to let go of, and relationships that are at stake. And it's just important to seek and value multiple perspectives. They call that going up on the balcony, and just honor the loss that comes from change that you're leading into. And I linked to a helpful resource on the Harvard Business Review website that describes more about adaptive change.
So sometimes we find us unintentionally in leadership and having to plan and prepare spontaneously. And again, that can be done sometimes organizationally, depending on where you are. Sometimes you have to do it on your own. You can sign up to programs, degrees, certificates, and organizations. You can seek professional help. And also through coaches and therapists. We're curious if there needs to be a peer group or informal formal mentorship within ACAP, and of course to establish a body of literature or to resource on the body of literature. So for example, there's a lot of literature about adaptive change and those business organization skills. So we're going to, we have already been divided up into breakout rooms. So we're now going to send everyone to breakout rooms to react and reflect on the content that we have. Each of your breakout rooms will have a lead facilitator. Lead facilitator will ask one of our attendees to please be a scribe to assist us in this session. And so shortly, Quentin will be sending us all out into breakout rooms to discuss and react to this. Well, welcome back, everyone, from these breakout groups. As we come back, I'm just going to check in with our two main facilitators. We know that we had multiple breakout rooms, and we are going to want to solicit that feedback after the session. But to make sure that we respect your time and everyone else's time, Mary and Nick, any general thoughts about your breakout sessions?
Thanks, Vivien. It was really fun. I'm glad we did the small groups. We had a group that represented a broader range of professional stages, which was neat. And we shared some Dr. Benningfield brought us back to this idea of value. So I found that to be special to when people were open and sharing what kind of values they brought to the work.
Yeah, I would say our discussion was really fascinating. I think one of the themes that really stuck out was the diversity. Like we were all very diversified, not just amongst each other, but within ourselves, people wearing multiple hats in various arenas all at the same time and navigating these things. So I thought that was really fascinating because even though there were a lot of different roles, the needs, like there were themes of needs that were being sought out. So that was really interesting to me. And then we started sort of sharing resources with each other. And that was wonderful too, just to feel like, oh, just even within this little group, I'm finding support. So that was really nice. Really, really nice.
Organically, the networking has already happened. Well, in our breakout room, which I know is not representative of all the 7 breakout rooms that we had today, we certainly had a rich diversity of discussions. I think we talked about how the things that we briefly touched on in the presentation feel like they are translatable to everyone, including adaptive leadership and finding yourself in a role unexpectedly, and also the developmental pathway of a physician going from that early career time where you feel a little bit more independent and scaffolded, and then to mid-career where it sometimes feels like you're not scaffolded at all and you're jumping into the void. So certainly validating that we're all here for those reasons, and there are some realities to creating a community together. If we didn't hear from your breakout groups, rest assured we will be checking in with the facilitators, organizing and collating that information. And if we can produce something, it will go on the virtual forum website where this recording and slides will go. And as we go on, we want to encourage you to share your thoughts and reach out to us about what we could create and reliably sustain within ACAP itself. Certainly, it sounds like we've been starting a nascent peer cohort. Some people have tossed out ideas of explicitly reading some of those leadership books and skills or literature and checking in on that periodically. Others have talked about informal, formal mentorship, sometimes in very structured ways where you may thank you, Sala, where you may meet in a structured paired way, or that we may need a place where you have to ask a question and see if somebody has experienced that to give you resources and advice. There is some discussion that there may be some leadership opportunities for instructions later on within ACAP, and so we hope to look at that and see if there is enough momentum to potentially form a committee. So what's next? As we come together, we want to let you know that we have been able to form a listserv called mecap@acap.org. And if you're here this evening and you'd like to be part of this community, please email Quentin, our staffer, who is supporting us capably through this adventure. And if you're an ACAP member, you will be signed up. If you happen to change your ACAP member status or not an ACAP member, your request to join the listserv will be reviewed before you will join. We want to remind you that there are many groups discussing professional development within ACAP already, and there are some annual meeting sessions if you intend to go to Seattle that do include leadership for your reference. And we've got about 4 minutes left. So as we go to this slide, let me check in with any of the other facilitators. And thank you, Quentin, for putting in the chat. If you haven't already registered for the annual meeting in Seattle, there is your link. And so as we close looking at this particular slide,
Are
they're
we
letting
sharing
me know
slides?
that
There we go.
before the breakout room, I think These are some of the discussion, and so this is your information about MECAP at ACAP, what the listserv address will be, and Quentin's email if you would like to join. Apologies for that. Thank you, group, for queuing me. And like all good child and adolescent psychiatrists, we usually run a 50 to 55-minute hour. So I'm excited that we are at 57 minutes past the hour. But we will be here for the next 3 or 4 minutes if you would like to stay and bring anything up to us as discussants or put something in the chat. And as we close out in the last 3 minutes, I did want to invite our 4 other facilitators who we didn't have a chance to get to if you wanted to share with us a little bit of what had happened in your groups. But if you do need to depart, thank you again for joining us in this session, but we will stick around, and this concludes the formal part of our presentation.